Alrighty folks, this is a tutorial on our 1-3 assignment. On 1-3, I'll work out the odd problems. Alrighty, so we're solving equations. So the objective to solving any equation is to get the variable by itself. So the first thing I would need to do on number 1 is to subtract 8 from itself and from 14 on the other side. By doing that, 14 minus 8 would give me 6 and is equal to negative 6r. You bring the sign down with the 6r. Then the next step is to divide both sides by negative 6. So you would get negative 1 is equal to r. Always check your solution. To check your solution, you take the original problem, 14 equals 8 minus 6, and then in place of r, we're going to put a negative 1, and make sure both sides equal. So bring down the 14, bring down the 8. A negative 6 times a negative 1 is a positive 6. So that's 14 equals 14. So it checks. So always check your solutions, ladies and gentlemen. That way you'll be able to tell right away whether you did it right. Number 3. Number 3 has fractions in it. And I told you, if you find the least common multiple from your denominators, you'll be able to get rid of your fractions. So again, to find the least common multiple, find all multiples of every denominator. So starting with 4, we would have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, etc. The next denominator is 2. So after 2 comes 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc. And then the other one is 8. After 8 comes 16. After 16 is 24. After 24, you would have 32, etc. So the least common multiple is the multiple that all three numbers have in common, and it's the smallest number. So when I look at each list, they all have an 8. So 8 is your least common multiple. So what you're going to do is take your least common multiple of 8 and multiply it with the entire equation. So put it over 1 since you're going to deal with fractions. Now distribute. So 8 over 1 times 3/4 is going to give me 24 over 4 minus 8 over 1 times 1/2 is going to give me 8 over 2. N equals, and then 8 over 1 times 5 over 8 would give me 40 over 8. And then if you reduce your fractions to lowest terms, you'll learn that you no longer have fractions. 24 divided by 4 is 6. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 40 divided by 8 is 5. So now it looks like number 1 somewhat, and we go ahead and get n by itself. First, by moving 6 by subtraction. So you would have negative 4n, remember to bring that sign down, is equal to 5 minus 6, which is negative 1. So now we need to move negative 4 by division. So divide by negative 4 on both sides. So you would end up with n is equal to positive 1/4. And again, make sure you check your work, folks. On number 5, The first thing I would do is subtract 5 on both sides. Since you're dealing with a decimal, it's technically 5.0. So I would bring down my negative 1.6 r, bring down my equals. So we have negative 7.8 minus 5.0 would give me a negative 12.8. Now I would divide both sides by negative 1.6. And let's grab our handy dandy calculator. I'm sure I can do that by hand, but we're running low on time. So again, it's negative 12.8 divided by negative 1.6. And that's 8. So R is equal to 8. Number 7 is next. The first thing I would have to do on number 7 is distribute the 5 into the parentheses. You get 5 times 6, 30. 5 times 4 is 20 and V. Then bring down everything on the right hand side, V plus 21. Now because I have V on both sides of my equal sign, I always say move small brother to join big brother, so I'm going to add 20V to both sides. And I'm left with 30 is equal to 21V plus 21. Then I would subtract 21 on both sides. And you're left with 9 is equal to 21V. Then we divide both sides by 21. And you would get 9 over 21 is equal to V, but in lowest terms, 3 goes into both. So when I divide this by 3, I would get 3. When I divide this by 3, I would get 7. So 3 over 7 is equal to V. For 9 through 12, we're solving literal equations for variables. So sometimes when you solve for a variable, you don't always get a number or a value back. Sometimes you get an expression. So for number 9, we're going to solve for m, but the process is still the same. Do the opposite motion to move things to the other side of the equal sign. So currently it says E is equal to mc squared. So m and c are being multiplied together. So if I want m to be by itself, I would have to divide c squared on both sides. So when I divide by c squared, the result would look like this. E divided by c squared is equal to m. And that's all you do. Nothing more, nothing less. On number 11, it wants us to get v by itself. So the first thing I would do in this case is add gt squared to both sides. Again, what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So on the left hand side, it would now say h plus g t squared. It helps if you curl your t's so that they don't look like plus signs and confuse you. And now it's equal to vt. So again, when you have two variables or a number and a variable side by side, they're together because of multiplication. So if I want v to be left alone, I would have to divide both sides by t. So now v is by itself, so the final result would read h plus gt squared over t is equal to v. Number 13. The length of a rectangle is twice the width. Find the width if the perimeter is 60 centimeters. Define a variable and write an equation and solve the problem. So we probably want to draw this picture. We have a rectangle, four sides, right? Where this side has the same measure as this one, and this side has the same measure as this one. Remember that from geometry? Okay. So I don't know numbers yet, but I know that usually the width is the shorter end, but that doesn't really matter. So let's call this W for width. So that means this is my length. Now, according to this, it says length of a rectangle is. Anytime they say is, that means equal. So length, the variable for length is L. So length L equals twice the width. So if width is W, twice W is 2 times W. So in other words, we know that L is equal to 2W. That's what that means. So now that we know that, we can say instead of L, this is 2W in both sides on our picture. Now, if you remember, that word perimeter means add all of your sides. So, according to my picture, I have side W plus side 2W plus side W plus side 2W. And if I add all those together, according to the description, I should get a perimeter of 60. Now, combine like terms and solve for W. So I have I have 1W plus 2W's, so that's 3W's, plus one more is 4, plus 2 more is 6. So I have a total of 6W's, and it's equal to 60. Now divide both sides by 6, and you would get W is equal to 10. So my width is equal to 10 centimeters. Alrighty, I'm going to take a pause right here and resume the rest of the assignment in just a moment.